LEGO just released their brand new wave of Marvel sets, and although these sets are generally really good, there are a few things that just about anyone can do to improve them, such as modifying the builds, updating the figures, and adding the missing characters. But before we start with any of that, I have to go out and actually buy these sets, so on January 1st, that's exactly what I did. I managed to get both of the Marvel sets that I wanted, the Quinjet and the Hulkbuster, as well as a couple other sets that might show up again in a future video. When I got home, I immediately got to building, and the first set that I built was the Quinjet from Avengers. This set is great, it's a really fun build, it looks amazing, and it's probably my favorite set in the wave. But it's not perfect, so let's start off with making some simple changes to the minifigures, which are Iron Man, Captain America, Loki, Thor, and Black Widow. Starting off with Cap, all I did for him was swap out his legs for the ones from Spidey in the Homecoming sets, and I think this adds some necessary detail as well as representing his red boots. Next is Iron Man, and I think this figure is once again really good, however, I prefer the older helmet piece to this newer one, so all I did was swap it out for an older helmet piece, and there we go. Rounding out the original trio, we have Thor. The first thing we're gonna do is swap out his hairpiece for the Old Man Luke mullet hairpiece. Then we're also gonna give him the legs from Captain Britain, which not only much more accurately represent the color of his pants, but also represent his brown boots. After that is Black Widow, and all I did for her was swap out her legs from the ones from Black Widow in the 2021 Marvel Advent Calendar. Finally, we have Loki, and the figure is actually really great, however, he could definitely use some new accessories. First off, we're gonna want to update the scepter because the simple golden blade piece is just not cutting it. So instead, here's a custom brick build version that I made with gold and gray pieces, as well as an infinity stone right at the top. Speaking of infinity stones, I think we can also give him another one, that being the space stone in the form of the Tesseract, which I've just taken from the Thor's Hammer set. Now, let's take a look at some of the figures that I would have included if I was the one designing this set, starting off with the two missing Avengers, the first of which being Hawkeye. It's been a long time since we've gotten a Hawkeye figure. The last one we got was for the Avengers game, and then before that it was him in his quantum suit, so it's been a really long time since we've gotten an MCU one. Anyway, here's my custom version of what I think the ideal Hawkeye would have looked like in this set. He uses the sleepyhead hairpiece in brown, and he has a smirking facial expression with some stubble. He has a sleeveless torso with a glove on his right hand. He's got some red designs all over his torso, as well as some straps and the shield logo on the right side of his chest. And finally, his accessories are a quiver and a bow. Although this is what the ideal version would look like, here's how you can actually make this figure. I used the legs from Johnny Thunder, as well as the official Hawkeye torso. I also used the head from Victor Crumb and the sleepyhead hairpiece, and finally his accessory is once again a bow. Rounding out the original 6 Avengers, we have Bruce Banner. He uses the Anakin Skywalker hairpiece in black, and he has kind of a nervous grinning facial expression with some stubble on his chin. He's also got a short sleeve purple collared shirt, and finally his legs are in dark tan. Although it would have been cool to get a big fig of Hulk or just a Bruce Banner figure in the set, I find this exclusion a little bit more excusable than that of Hawkeye, because at least we got a Bruce Banner figure in this wave. A few more characters I think they could have included are Nick Fury, since he started the Avengers, Dr. Selvig, because we've never gotten him before, but he could have easily been included in this set. And to make him, I used the Mr. Incredible hairpiece, the Toby Flenderson facial expression, as well as the Bruce Banner torso print from 2018, and some brown legs. Finally, I think Loki's gonna have a bit of a hard time fighting off the Avengers on his own, so I definitely think the set could have used some Chitauri warriors, and maybe even some of their gliders to fight off against the Quinjet. Speaking of, let's take a look at the Quinjet now, and like I said, I think that overall the build is really good, but the interior is a little spare compared to how much detail they put on the outside. So I decided to spruce it up a little bit. First, I took some weapon racks from the Advent Calendar as well as the Avengers compound set, and I just put them in the back of the inside, and then I made these little hologram screens and put them in front of some of the seats, and I really think these little details really help bring the interior to life. Anyway, that's about all the improvements and adjustments I have for this first set. Now let's move on to set number 2. The other set we'll be fixing today is the Hulkbuster Battle of Wakanda, which has 4 minifigures, Bruce Banner, 2 Outriders, and Okoye. Now, the only real improvement I can think of for the set as is would be to swap out Bruce's hair for Doctor Strange's in order to get that little bit of gray detailing on the side. However, I do think this set would have been much better if they had just removed the Hulkbuster entirely. But I don't mean the build, rather I think that the Hulkbuster should have been removed from the title in order for this to just be a full-on Battle of Wakanda set. So of course, the first figure I had to include for the Battle of Wakanda is the King of Wakanda himself, T'Challa the Black Panther. This figure was really easy because all I had to do was take him out of the Avengers Endgame Final Battle set, but you can also swap out his mask with this head and hairpiece from the Marvel CMF if you want to have him unmasked. Another character from the battle that I know I had to include is Captain America, and this is just the official figure for him, which works pretty well, but I also made a custom version of him with some changes. First off, he uses the Han Solo hairpiece in Nuke It, and he has a grinning facial expression with a beard, as well as dual molded arms, brown gloves, and a battered up torso with a black star in the middle. He has boots, as well as an alternate facial expression, which shows him very angry and battle ready. Now, some of you guys might remember that when Infinity War first came out, LEGO released an Infinity War Bricktober pack with 4 exclusive minifigs from the movie, and 2 of which were actually actually in the Battle of Wakanda. However, you might also remember that this pack was and still is ridiculously hard to come by, so if you want to make these two figures but don't have this pack, then let's take a look at how you can. First off is War Machine, and this is a pretty easy one. We're just going to take this official figure of him, and although the color is slightly inaccurate, it's still a lot easier to come by than the other one. Bucky's also pretty simple. We're just going to take the official figure of him from the Marvel CMF, but replace the hairpiece with the one from Sirius Black from the Harry Potter sets. Another figure that definitely should have been included is Thor. Thor arriving in Wakanda is one of the best scenes in Infinity War, so I knew I had to include him. My custom figure uses the sleepyhead hairpiece in brown and has a brown beard with a grinning facial expression. He uses the Mandalorian cape piece in red, and he has silver arms as well as a very detailed torso design, some dark brown boots, and an updated version of Stormbreaker. And finally, his alternative facial expression is very angry with lightning coming out of his eyes. Although this would be the ideal figure to come in the set, to make this figure in real life, I used the Thor hair and head from Infinity War as well as a red cape and the Thor Endgame torso. I used the T'Challa Star-Lord legs, and finally I gave him Stormbreaker as his accessory. I also included Rocket and Groot on either side of him because they were the ones who traveled in the Bifrost and arrived in Wakanda with him. Then, of course, the whole reason Thor came to Wakanda in the first place was to defeat Thanos, so I decided to use the newer Thanos Big Fig from the Endgame Final Battle set, and I gave him the gauntlet with all 6 Infinity Stones. Now, I wanted to add some more builds to the set, so I got these trees from a Jurassic World set, and then got out some of my bricks so I could adjust them and make them a little bit more accurate by adding some foliage around them and changing out the leaf colors. When I was done upgrading them, I put these trees next to Thanos, and now it lets you reenact the scene where Thor attacks him and then knocks over some of the surrounding trees in the process. I also decided to take White Vision from the Marvel CMF and put him off to the side to represent Vision's body after the Mind Stone was ripped out of his forehead. Of course, we can't have Vision without Wanda, so to make Wanda, I took the hair and torso from the Endgame Final Battle set and the head and legs from the Age of Ultron Hulkbuster set to make the most accurate version of Infinity War Wanda. I then included the official figure of Proxima Midnight, a member of the Black Order who proved to be a formidable foe against Wanda, Okoye, and Black Widow. Speaking of Black Widow, here's a look at her now. I mostly used the official figure, but I swapped out the hairpiece for Lloyd Garmadon's from the Lego Ninjago movie, which I think works a lot better. I also made a custom version of Black Widow. This one once again uses the Lloyd Garmadon hairpiece, this time in a more blondish color. She has a cocky facial expression as well as black arms and legs, and she has an olive green vest as well as some straps all over it, but the main reason I made this figure was for the alternative facial expression. This one shows her looking pretty disgusted with Proxima Midnight's remains splattered all over her face. After that, I made a small build of the battle between Wanda, Okoye, Black Widow, and Proxima Midnight, which takes inspiration from the Star Wars battle sets that LEGO sometimes does. The build portrays a small patch of rocky terrain with some foliage around it next to a stream, and it even has a little play feature which allows you to let Proxima Midnight spin around and fight off against the Avengers. And finally, I included Wanda lifting the giant saw blade that shreds Proxima Midnight. Finally, the last thing you need to include in your Battle of Wakanda is all the Outrider minifigures that you own to fight off against the Avengers, and if you have one, include your Outrider dropship attack set as well. And with that, the Battle of Wakanda is complete. I really hope these tips helped you guys elevate your new Marvel sets to the next level, and if you enjoyed this video, then make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But anyways, that's about all I have for you guys today. Have a great day, and go build something awesome.